All right, back with Countdown right here on Bloomberg. Quint is looking, well, if not ominous, certainly scary because we're down about 250 points for the Nifty and 832 for the Nifty Bank. That's the key thing. But just look at the nature of the losers today and you'll see why it is worrying. It is not just the riffraff which is pulling the index down. Bajaj Twins are right up there. Finserv is down 11%, Bajaj Finance down 9%. And if indeed you have Sanjeev Bajaj talking about the economy is slowing down dramatically, that will now be counted as cast in stone of sorts, and which is why you're seeing this impact on Bajaj Finance individually 3393. Then that aside, of course, oil marketing companies and autos have seriously corrected. Maruti Suzuki is at 6,000. Some of the others too have corrected, and PSU banks as a chunk have just collapsed in the session today. No point talking about gainers, frankly. There are going to be one or two. The defensives might be holding fort, likes of TCS, Infosys, etc. And Yes Bank might be up 4%, but that's hardly to talk about. Really, the day and the afternoon belongs squarely to the losers. Banks in particular need cleanup.
Yeah, just when you thought after the recap news there could be a further bump up, but as we've seen historically as well, the recap news comes and the rally fizzles out. And Nifty PSU Banking Index, by the way, is the top sectoral loser. I just want to highlight key market internals from the futures and options market right now. Nifty, as we know, it's already slipped below the 50 DMA. In fact, it's approaching its 100 DMA, which is somewhere about 11,490. So watch out for that one. Bank Nifty was outperforming so far. It still is, because maybe it's just trading below its 20 DMA. 50 DMA for Bank Nifty will be in focus going ahead. And from the options data, Nifty PCR fell to levels of about 1.09 on Friday. And as I can see the data right now, the PCR has slipped below the mark of 1. Technically, it means that the markets are in oversold territory, but there's a contra data point there. We've not seen any fresh shorting which came in on Nifty futures. We started the July series with an open interest of about 1.8 crore. And the increase which has come in today, right now the open interest stands somewhere about 2 crore. It clearly tells you the fresh shorting which has come into the system is only today, because so far since the time July series has started, we've not seen any significant shorting. In fact, I feel the majority number of trading days saw unwinding coming up for the futures data of the Nifty futures, though Bank Nifty was the one where major positions were to be being taken. On the option side, well, it's the day belongs to the call riotous. 11,700 call has added about 35 lakh shares, and now maximum open interest on the call side. Of course, it is at the 12,000 strike, but also at the 11,700 strike as well. So that becomes your first resistance mark on the upside. The put writers are running for cover, especially of strikes like 700, 750, 800. We are seeing unwinding coming up there, and maximum open interest now on the put side, it is at the 11,500 strike. So that's the first mark, Neeraj. I feel that the market will be watching out on the downside. You already highlighted few stocks, so I'll just mention Mindtree, where fresh shorting is seen. Bajaj Finance was taking support at 50 DMA. Let's check if that has already surpassed that level or not. And PNB is the other one, the top F&O loser for the day, which has breached its 200-day moving average. And the data suggests there is aggressive shorting which is coming for Punjab National Bank today.
Yeah, well, and maybe warranted too. Just when everybody thought there's nothing go wrong, well, you have a fresh set of issues coming in out there. But let's talk about what to do in a scenario like this. And before we get into the technicals, just get an opening thought from Samir Kalra. He's joining us on the show as well. Samir, the adage is buy when there is blood and fear on the street. Is this the start of the bloodletting, and can it worsen? A quick summary, and then we'll get to the details.
So I think two things which will now lead it to further. One is, as you said, the main head, Sanjeev Bajaj, coming out first time and saying that there's a slowdown and drastic slowdown. Otherwise, he wouldn't have admitted on a media presence, right? So that means for him, if it's a slowdown, for other, it means even worse of situation. So that leads to consumer durables, the SME loans and the retail loans, that side. On the other side, the auto numbers, let's talk about that, where people were hoping that some kind of stimulus will come, some kind of hope will come. This budget clearly mentioned that electric vehicles is the choice going ahead. The traditional vehicles will be penalized for being traditional in a certain way. So I think now the streams are very clear. The pain is much more longer than people anticipate. Maybe the index-wise, you might see bounces from here on because, as Navneet is saying, it's oversold at a certain point. But I think stock-specific, now Maruti has opened up a whole new level. where people were seeing the bounces from 6300, 6400 levels, and we were repeatedly saying get out of it before it's too late. And even today, I don't feel it's too late. So I think fundamentally there's even further downside. On the index level, there might be certain levels which are kept in place through certain ways. But if I talk about stock specific, I think another 6 months is a pain for us.
We'll talk about this. Well, another 6 months would eclipse the Diwali period as well, usually considered the period for buying. Let's see if the festive season turns things around. But getting our technical experts on board, Hemant Taparia of KR Choksey with us on the show. And in a bit, we'll get in other experts too. Hemant, Brijesh Singh of StockAccess is also with us. Hemant, what are you doing today on the index? For somebody who's not taken any trades right now, 800 points down for the Nifty Bank, what's the fresh trade that can be taken?
Very good afternoon to you, Neeraj. I think fresh trade would be a buy, high risk harakiri buy, simply because one, we're oversold and we're set for a recovery. We've gone to 11,523. As Navneet mentioned, the put options are max over there, and one gets the feeling that we are due for a small bounce, so high risk strategy. But yeah, I would not short at this point in time. And if I were to short, I'd wait for a pullback somewhere to closer to 11,700. And I think we're due for a small bounce coming in. So that's the way I look at it.
Hemant, how would you read the Nifty PCR? Because you've been tracking the open interest data yourself very closely. And today is the first day when you can see signs of fresh shorting coming on Nifty futures. But again, on the option side, the PCR has slipped to below that mark of 1, which actually indicates an oversold territory.
I think you made a valid point in your opening statement, Navneet, that Nifty didn't do much. We started at 1.8, we went to 1.4, 1.84, 1.78. We hovered around the 1.8, so we didn't do much. Bank Nifty, yes, we saw almost 1.5 to 2 lakh OI addition after we started the new series, and that's where we're seeing more pain coming in. But historically, like you said, the put call ratio, we've gone below 1. I think if this is the start of what could be a bigger fall, I think I agree with what Sameet said. Then this put call ratio can go to 0.70 or 0.75, and it's going to take time. So yes, it's oversold. We could be set for a small bounce back. And there was a very surprising phenomenon. Whenever there's event risk, you see the VIX spiking up. Now, last entire week, it kept on slipping down. Not majorly, but I mean, frankly speaking, that didn't make sense. But yeah, oversold, so a small relief, a respite, yes, but I think it would take some more time and some more price before we come to a conclusion that yes, we've seen a big oversold situation, and I think we could, historically, like I said, 0.70, 0.75 could be the point at which the put call ratio would quantify for a bigger turnaround. But currently, I think that's a far cry. We're just looking for a recovery and then a decline again.
Well, in fact, for a change, Hemant, you're seeing India VIX going up post the event. Today, it's up 6 to 7%. Quickly take us through your top stock bets for this afternoon.
Well, frankly speaking, I had sell calls on HUL and sell calls on State Bank of India, but they're conditional. HUL has already come off now, so I would have a contra buy call on Yes Bank and Glenmark. But once again, this was quantified as a high risk trade, Navneet. And if I were to reiterate the call on HUL and SBI, I would wait for a bounce in HUL to around 1770. And for State Bank, I would wait for a bounce around 362 before going short, because I feel there is a recovery around the corner. And as far as the Nifty trade is concerned, I'll sell the 11,300 put option. Wait till 11,700, assuming it comes 11,750. Then I'll sell the 12,000 or 12,100 calls. Frankly speaking, it's a breakdown, a downward bar reversal, reversals coming in thick and fast, and it doesn't look too good. So frankly speaking, it's a sell on bounce market. But as of now, like you said, put call ratio has gone below 1, oversold 11,500, maximum put OI, small bounce around the corner.
Okay, let's quickly bring in Brijesh Singh of StockAccess to get his views also on the markets. Brijesh, do you see further downside for Nifty? What sort of trade would you execute at current levels?
Good afternoon, Navneet and Neeraj. See, the party was looking that it would not be coming to an end, and it would be more celebration would be coming up But since after the budget, the things have turned around, and now the Nifty, the range, it was been trading 11,600 or 11,650 on downside, followed by 11,950 to 980 on the higher side. That range has been broken now, and it's been trading below that range. And if we look out the chart on a daily basis, so on May 19th, the gap which was been formed, it looked like in this month we might be seeing that gap filling up on May 19th. So right now at this position, we might see a small pullback, but that pullback should be used for going short rather than going on a long side. Taking a Nifty spot value, when I recommended that time, Nifty was trading somewhere around 11,600, and it had made a low of 11,523, and it has bounced back from that level. So assuming again that if it trades somewhere around 11,600, one can take a sell side with a stop loss of 11,685 and play for the target of 11,500. Even the target can extend to the level of 11,420 to 11,440. A time frame to hold would be a week time frame. Then there are two sell call on my radar. One is Maruti. In today's session, we have seen stock making a new 50-week low with increase in volume. Somewhere around 6,000, the stock has been trading. So suppose someone wants to go for a sell side, present rate can be used for a selling purpose with the stop loss of 6150 and play for the target of 5,700, or even if someone has a positional view of going short, then keeping a stop loss of 6,300, look for the target of 5,200 to 5,300 also. Second sell call is Asian Paint. The stock on a shorter term time frame of the chart is been trading in a lower heights formation, which is giving a sell signal. Even as I witnessed the withdrawal Andrew Pickford, which generally I say it's been a trend decider indicator, so it's been still pointing towards the south side. So it's been the stock has been trading near the median line of it. Chances are that it would be breaking. So somewhere around 1340 the stock has been trading. One can take a sell side on it with a stop loss of 1370, play for the target of 1290 as a first initial target. Target can be extended to the level of 1260 also. Time frame to hold the call would be 1 week.
Some stocks, we talk about how some of the high-flying names like Bajaj Finance, Finserv have come off. Look at what's happened to Sun Pharma, Maruti Suzuki. I would probably even throw in a Tata Steel out there. Nifty 50 names, high quality, but returns over any time frame in the last 3 months, 6 months, or the next 9 months have been negative, and a deep gash of red, by the way, for all of these. So you may have spread out your buying, trying to take advantage of lower levels, and still would have been in the red. That's the key thing. I mean, look at any of these names that I mentioned, and there's a bit of a problem there. Now, Sameer, you've been negative on autos by and large. I can understand that earlier on at maybe 7,000, 6,500 for a Maruti. Leave out of Tata Motors, the two-wheeler companies as well, some correction, and people thought, okay, maybe there could be more. Now we are 2,000 points away from demonetization lows for Maruti Suzuki. Hero MotoCorp would be around those levels, or maybe slightly lower than that also. If the stocks have to head lower or stay lower, we are factoring in a structural issue and not a cyclical issue with the autos then.
But Neeraj started in December, and to Jan and Feb, I remember even on your channel, I used to tell it's a structural issue.
Yeah, that's what
it's not systematic issue. So that's why even till let's say on Friday also, Friday when the budget was announced, everyone was hoping the autos will get some kind of benefit, and that's why even the levels which we are seeing today never came when the growths were coming out minus 5% or production cuts were going every month 15%, 14%, which is very big when your valuations are still the same. So I think now when the realization has happened that the government will not actively involve themselves to reverse any kind of swaps to the industry to come back to a normal level or a normal growth, then the structural issue will extend even further down than before getting anything kind of a revival. Even if you see China sales today, they released the passenger vehicle sales registration, that's 4% up. This is the 13th month where that's gone 4% up after 12 months. So that's a base impact. But in that, a lot of stimulus, a lot of tax cuts, a lot of deep discounts have gone into the system just to push it up 4% up. We are still on a higher base for next 6 months. So I don't see this going off very easily until unless the government really pushes this up.
Which doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah, so that's where I think the hope and the reality and the government actions.
So let me ask
have
you a
to
pointed
take-
question.
yeah.
If you had, last word on auto, if you had a Maruti or a Hero MotoCorp or a Bajaj Auto in your portfolio currently, would you get out of them now
So
at
I
these
would-
prices?
See, if I had bought around 4,000 levels or pre that,
How does the buying price matter?
see, it matters in one way because once if you're totally out of it, see what financial behavior says once you're totally out of that lower price, buying at even a 5,000 or 4,000 again becomes very difficult mentally. That's a roadblock.
Okay, finish your point. If you would get
So
out of it,
If I had a 4,000, 5,000 kind of a buying point, I would get out of it. If I had a really lower levels, I would take out half of it
what
at
if you had
least.
a higher level? What if you had bought Maruti at 75?
Then you should have exited today itself.
you exit
even,
today?
Yeah, even
You would
today I'll exit because it's a structural issue. I'm talking about every auto. We exited in December around 80%. So 20% is still there. I'm not worried about that because I know somewhere the value will come up because this panic really spreads out. And 6 months later on, you might see them at 4,000 or 3,000 levels. I'm really hoping it's bad on the
Talking
way.
about Bajaj Auto or Maruti?
I'm talking about Maruti because see,
I'm getting. Yeah, I got your point. I get
the
your
point where, sorry, I'm just taking a minute, where you see Sanjeev Bajaj coming and saying, RC Bhargav came in December and said it. But people were still not able to believe it, that, this kind of a structural slowdown is there in the system.
Well, it seems like a double whammy, not tinkering
Yeah.
with the GST rates at 28%. BS6 gets implemented next year, and that will also push the
Yeah.
cost of vehicles further higher, which could impact the sales in the coming months, at least till next year for the auto pack. But it's not a great market, and nervousness is palpable, as you can see on the screen. Nifty is down almost 260 points. Bank Nifty down 860 points in trade. Let's go across to Mishika Parekh to find out if she managed to find the Fab Four stocks today. Mishika, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Navneet. It's not been a very good day, but we've still managed to find our Fab Four stocks. First on my list today is Yes Bank. Now, over the past few weeks, there have been several speculations around the company, but the company has filed a statement today wherein it refutes all speculations, and they've mentioned that the financial position of the company is strong and stable, and their liquidity and operating performance remains robust. Second stock that we're looking at is JSPL. The company has managed to get a growth of 17% in steel and other related products for Q1 on a year-on-year basis, which was above estimates. The stock is almost 6.6% up. Stock number 3 is Aavas Financiers, which is about 1.4% up. The stock is trading at 5 times the volumes of its 20-day average. Last on our list today is Dishman Carbogen. The stock is up almost 2.6%. It snaps its 6-day losing streak with volumes 2 times its 20-day average. Back to you, Navneet.
All right, Mishika, thanks a lot for bringing those Fab Four stocks of the day. And we have kicked the earnings season as well. Your heavyweight TCS from the IT pack will be coming out with the numbers tomorrow. Let's just check ahead of the numbers what TCS is doing. As anticipated, because of the negative feedback that one was getting for the IT as a whole with regard to the budget because of the shareholding norms and also taxing the buyback. But I think they've held out today. TCS, HCL Technologies, both have been trading in the positive territory. Hemant, coming on this, ahead of the numbers tomorrow, would you take a bet on TCS?
Well, I think the entire IT sector has gone for a toss. But in the extreme near term, maybe there is some respite, Navneet. But no, if I were to take a bet, I'm not sure if a bounce is worth playing for. Yeah, but that's the only thing worth playing for because I have a feeling the IT sector is toppish. If you look at the IT index itself is not looking good from a medium-term point of view. So TCS is obviously the strongest of the entire lot. So maybe there could be a bounce coming in, but no, I would prefer to stay away. And in case a bounce comes in and once the results are out of the way and we don't take out 2280 and start slipping again, I think it would be a prime shot actually.
Well, let's wait and watch. The broader end of the spectrum, the PSU banks have completely collapsed. Now, what's happening here? Was the market anticipating a lot more from the PSU banks, or is it just like how I feel the sentiment on the market is that ahead of the budget, let's wait, something will come out, and nothing dramatic came out? Yes, you could argue that it's a 70,000 crore number, but that's spread over 2 years as well, if I'm not wrong. So is that the reason that nothing dramatic came out. PNB has had this issue as well. Maybe others will also have it. Who knows? What is weighing in today?
I think for the PSU banks, it's more led, as per you said, that the 70,000 number looked good during the speech. And there were certain bounces, and Nifty Bank, I think, was the only index which was able to maintain that kind of a spread throughout the speech and thereafter. So I think today, when everyone opened the books in budget during the weekend and realized this number is actually not the number which was mentioned in the way it was supposed to, so that disappointment really kicks in. And I think over there, what's happening, the PNB fraud check which came in, and it's a really delayed action. It's something which, so now you don't know whether certain things will fold here or other also, and other banks will face some certain kind of movements as well, because I think a lot of that allocation is based on the mergers and acquisitions. It's not based on every individual getting the pie in that certain sense. And I think somewhere DHFL ICA, which they signed, I think that also puts a negative in the system. That somewhere you're ready to take over something bad and even make a worse out of it. Because in the end, you're the ones who will get paid out, or even if you extend the payment terms. So you're just postponing the system failure. And I think over there also that disappointment is coming. But what I was even showing Navneet, there's a lot of delivery-based selling happening. As in, if you see last 1 month high, we have crossed a lot of stocks, major stocks, which is today, as of now, delivery is highest than that. So there's a lot of liquidation happening, which I think will make these levels go even further down.
You know, the other one is Mindtree, right? I mean, just think of it from somebody who did not tender into the open offer, thinking, let's wait and watch. L&T is a strong company, might take it higher. 980 versus 768 in a matter of 5 days.
Yeah, today's fall is primarily on the old guard resigning, but Samir, 980 is the average price where L&T acquired their stake, and currently at 768. Would you have the gumption now to go ahead and buy the stock?
I think nothing before 600, 650 for me. Because what happens if your main management signs off and your second in line is still not in view of being comfortable with the new promoter? See, it's not about the regular operation works, it's more of the deal signing and the deal renewals. Now, if that doesn't fructify with the new owners and the new management who comes in place, the deal signing is, at least, if I'm not wrong, postponed by 1 or 2 quarters. Nothing will happen. So any which way your margins were under pressure. You don't see any, I don't see any upside of it going to 980 until unless L&T buys even furthermore on the tender offer or gives a second open offer, because otherwise there's no meaning to, frankly, even I really don't understand what was such a USP in the companies that L&T went and gave them a 980 kind of a premium over here.
The stock has come off quite rapidly, 13.5% down in the session today. Let's wait and watch. Ridham Desai's call in the morning was that their downgrade on equities globally stems from the fact that they believe that world markets equities might just be a bit weak going ahead because the growth might be getting impacted as well. He's of course made a very interesting comment about how this is not an equities budget, it's a bond budget. Let's hear out while Ridham Desai thinks so.
Government bonds are, I think, in a bull run, and they remain. So, at some point in time, they haven't actually, but at some point in time, they'll become overvalued relative to equities. And at that time, I think you can make a very big call on equities. They've still not become overvalued. They're getting there, but we've not gotten there. But clearly, this is a great environment.
The finance minister wanting some retail participation in government bonds,
I think that's very good.
And treasury
I think
bills.
that's so. It's actually a market for a bull. It's actually a bond budget rather than an equity budget in that sense. It's clearly because you're taking some supply off. First of all, the aggregate supply is constant, right? Because you've not raised the fiscal deficit. Then you're taking some of that and raising it overseas. So you're actually reducing the net supply. You've not raised the fiscal deficit. So I think this is very good for bonds.
IT is not done all that badly.
It's doing very well.
It's doing really well. So, in fact, most of your heavyweights have actually managed to push on the upside. So, I mean, when you're talking about growth petering off in light of what's been happening globally, is it going to be that bad for IT, Indian IT players? Or
Look,
how much do you expect growth to, if at all, come off by?
It's a relative thing, right? If growth in India is picking up and growth in the US is slowing down, then obviously domestic cyclicals will do a whole lot better than global sectors. So it's a relative thing.
Okay, but in terms of earnings growth for IT,
Yeah.
is that expected to get hurt a lot?
10-12% growth will not look very exciting if the rest of the companies are doing 20. And I think 20 is on the cards. Actually, we didn't have such a bad earnings environment last year for the Nifty. We had double-digit growth, high double-digit growth. So I think we are in that environment where growth will actually start inching towards 20%. So I'm actually quite bullish on growth in India. So in that context, I don't want to buy something that's defensive like IT, which is
which in this environment was fine.
With much lower growth at much higher valuation.
The overall markets rhythm, how is that setup looking like now? Tie up for us, one, what's happening globally with Trump, trade war, Powell's statement, etc. I mean, Friday's jobs data notwithstanding, the overarching belief is that the rates are slated to be not higher, if not lower. India seems to be in this dovish tailwind as well. How does all of that set up for the markets, and what's your belief of what the markets could do over the next 12 months?
So the absolute call depends on what global equities do, and we just went underweight global equities overnight.
Yeah.
Okay. And the rationale is that historically global equities, particularly US equities, which is a very chunky bit of the globe, have not done well when the Fed is dovish and growth is slowing.
Okay.
They do well when growth is actually accelerating and the Fed is dovish. That's the sweet spot. That's the Goldilocks for equities. This is not a very good environment where the Fed is going to be dovish. The reason for the Fed to be dovish is because growth is slowing. So we are actually quite cautious on global growth going into the next 12 months. We think that the trade war is having its impact, and it will take time for it to unwind, even if China and US resolve it, because US capex has certainly slowed down. I would be therefore wary about IT stocks in India, because I think there's a serious slowdown in US business capex that's happening, and that is why we think that global stocks may underperform other asset classes. So we've gone underweight global stocks. So if the absolute global markets are not heading much higher, India can, will of course also have its own problem going higher on an absolute basis. But on a relative basis, and India remains one of our top picks in the emerging market space, I think India is very well placed. So this is the conundrum for India. It's become a low beta market. It does well when the world is not doing well, but that doesn't give you absolute returns. It actually doesn't do as well on a relative basis when the world is doing well, but that gives you absolute returns. I don't know which one you want to choose. If you are a foreign investor, you're fine with the first. If you're a domestic investor, then then the second one is what you want, which is let the world do well and we'll underperform, but we get absolute returns. So I think returns in India will be a little harder to come by. I think the markets will require a far more stronger signs that growth is coming back before it puts a bid on stocks. So I kind of think that we are in a range here. We're not breaking out in a hurry. There will be stock making opportunities, but the Nifty is not making, is not tearing away in a hurry. And that's largely to do with the global backdrop.
Okay, that's some views coming in from Rhythm Desai, but 2% lower, 11,550 is where Nifty currently trades. Bank Nifty is now down almost 3% in trade, 30,580 is the level where it's trading. Let's head across to Darshan Mehta to find out what the dealing rooms are suggesting in today's session. Hi Darshan, good afternoon. Are there all short calls you got?
Yeah, obviously at this point of time the market is, and valuations is something that dealers are taking very seriously. A couple of stocks in which there is selling that's happening, and based on high valuation, because growth certainly seems to be on a slowdown. The Bajaj twins, Titan as well as Havells, again valuation concern, and for the past few days Bajaj Finance and Finserv fell in today, but for the past few days Havells and Titan have been correcting, so there are concerns whether the growth will come in or these valuations are sustainable or no. The other one is SRF, which is down almost 4% in trade. Some of the HNIs, some of the domestic funds are actively selling. They believe this time around the number probably won't be on the stronger side. There are some bit of concerns because of the slowdown that is there. And finally, Piramal Enterprises did manage to open week, went up almost 2% in trade, and then again has corrected significantly. Some of the HNIs are using every opportunity of rise in the stock to sell this counter. So that's been spoken about.
Okay, Darshan, thanks a lot for bringing that dealing room check. Pull up Ujjivan Financial, that's the one which has seen cuts of about 7% as we speak. Some bit of recovery may have been there from the lower levels of the day, but 6% lower here. Brijesh, on the charts, Ujjivan Financial at 274. Would you advise taking any short position?
See, Navneet, RISE should be used for going short. No doubt the stock had been beaten from a level of 300 and it made a low of say 260 or 268 or 270, and after that we have seen a bounce back. But that bounce back would not be able to sustain. So any rise somewhere around say 277 if it trades, then one can take a sell side with a stop loss of 284 and play for the target of 260, 262.
Would you take a risky bet and play the bounce back of Yes Bank, which is the top gainer today on Nifty?
I think so, Navneet. I would be brave enough to stick my neck out and say that, because I think a bounce is around the corner, maybe not now, maybe tomorrow morning. But yeah, coming back to a question, yes Bank, we're at 93.40. I'd keep a stop loss of 90 and play for a bounce, and yeah, go long.
Okay, Sameer, you tend to buy distress.
Yeah.
Yes Bank? At distress right now?
Yeah.
You're buying
totally. It? Yeah, I bought a bit, increased the weight a bit, not much.
Why?
I'm
just rational being? This is what? Playing the domino effect ke bahut giri hai to chalo le lo, it'll bounce back?
That's not those things. See,
so why would you buy Yes when you don't know what's in the books?
See, the only point is, even if I take, let's say, a zero book, right? Let's say there's nothing in it, right? Now I have a portfolio, I have a place to allocate certain amount where I take a speculative bet or let's say a special situation bet, what I call them, which I think will pay off only in next 3 to 5 years. They don't pay off today. So I just take up, whether it's my experience or whether it's my luck or whatever you want.
Whatever, yeah, sure.
Right? So I just start accumulating it. It doesn't.
No, but why Yes?
Because what happens, a lot of it comes through speculative sells, especially when it's into derivatives. Today, I don't know if you can talk to your technical guys about it, but if you see the June series and if you see the data on the derivative side, June, there was nobody who was adding on the call side. And it was just slashing down every day 5%, 6%, based on something which is not on paper and signed by a CEO or a company secretary. So that's what I believe in. I don't believe anything else which comes out in some random newspaper and says that, you know, this is faltering out, that's faltering out. Second of all, the results are coming off. I know they'll be 90% better than what they were in the previous quarter. So that is one thing. Third of all, if you see July series now, especially today, you see there are a lot of call built up. Even Navneet can tell you. I don't know specifically, but I understand that much to understand the negativity is totally dragged out. There's some bit of reversal out here. So that's why I have not added totally. Now I'm waiting for results and then the capital raising. Because see, whatever is coming out of cleaning of previous books, not of the new book. It's not that the new management is at fault and this all is happening. It's the previous management. Now if you would have done same for SBI when Arundhati Roy was there, right? Everyone was blaming SBI that there's no one to handle this. This is running into glut. And there was a big reversal post that. So it's a pain period. So, and I like to invest in pain period rather than the positive period and where people are making a lot of money by just trading it out.
Okay. Well, pertinent point. Just before we get in closing strategies, have to mark a few companies that are doing well too. It's not just all loss, I must say. Avenue Supermarts, for example, is at 1400, so 3% higher. We talk about expensive stocks getting pummeled. Avenue is doing the exact opposite. There's some strength in Balrampur Chini, up about 2.5% in the session today. Cummins has some gains to itself, so watch out for that one. And Navneet was talking about it. Something's happened to BF Utilities, up about 20% today. 209. I confess ignorance about knowing what it is, but the stock is doing reasonably okay for itself. But PSU banks being taken to the cleaners. Some of the other cement companies also have been washed out today. India Cements, for example, and the Bajaj twins are active. We'll take a strategy, by the way, on Bajaj Finance and Finserv too, and then maybe just take a view on some of the insurance players, because today a lot of these insurance companies, HDFC Life as well, have corrected quite significantly. But first, okay, a bit of a bounce in the last few minutes of trade for HDFC Life. Interesting. But first, some closing strategies. Brijesh, to you first. Your top closing strategy today.
Two sell calls from my side. From cement, Ambuja is looking weak. So somewhere around 205, the stock has been trading. So suppose someone wants to go for a sell side, one can go with the stop loss of 209 and play for the target of 197 and 196. And another sell call would be from a PSU bank, as you have mentioned, it's looking weak. So BOI is looking weak. So somewhere around 84, we have seen a pullback. That pullback should be used for a selling purpose with the stop loss of 87, before the target of 78 to 79.
Hemen, what about you?
Yeah, I would have a BTST on the Nifty, and I would also have a BTST on Yes Bank, Neeraj.
Okay, BTST on Nifty and BDST on the top Nifty gainer for a change today. That's Yes Bank, up about 6% in trade. Just want to mark a few other stocks. Capital Trust is down 11 to 12% as we speak. We've been highlighting the PSU banking space. Punjab National Bank, Bank of India, all of them are seeing sharper cuts. But the other space which has tumbled is also the oil and gas space. So among the Nifty constituents, you've got ONGC, IOC are seeing sharp fall in today's session. BPCL is down 2%, but ONGC is down over 5% in trade, and so is IOC. Samir, we did get increase in cess and also excise duty for the oil marketing companies, though that's passed on, but we're still witnessing some selling pressure here.
So I think OMCs are getting kind of burdened with everything. One is the crude prices have increased now on Friday as well on the jobs data of US, and now they're sustaining that kind of upside. Second of all, OMCs, the price can be passed on, but if the volume hits and your growths are slowing down for industries as well. So if that volume tapers off from here as well, and the incremental demand comes off, then you have a kind of a sales revenue growth issue as well for OMCs. So I think everything which can go wrong for OMCs globally and locally is going wrong for them.
It's pretty ironical today that the top loser is Bajaj Finance and Finserv, and the top gainer is Yes Bank on the Nifty 50. It's an interesting mix of names today. Somebody just put out the tweet, and I found it very, very interesting. And that's the nature of the market today. However, as we said, so insurance, Bajaj Finserv fallen notwithstanding. That's individual factors, the holding in Bajaj Finance, etc. HDFC Life has come off a bit, SBI Life, etc., and all of that. Do you use these falls to buy?
I think only in HDFC Life.
Why?
Because if you see the whole...
there is selling that will come in if this proposal is accepted.
So I think the proposal and the hype of this proposal coming through is just too much.
Okay, so we'll talk about that too in a bit. Let's first talk about the fundamentals because we just have 5 minutes left.
For HDFC, I think if you see all the private insurers, the growth of premium, the first premiums, HDFC is surpassing everyone in the market shares, right? And it's been a continuous effort. It's not, and even you've seen the change of management as well. It's not that the management is same and everything is same. So I think over there, then you get more kind of confidence on the new management as well, that the path is still sustaining itself. And if you see the non-group part is even further growing even further higher. It's not there depending on the group, and that's where the growth is kicking in. And where you see ICICI Pru or SBI, the group part is still much higher. The growth is coming more from the group part, and that gives you less margin capability even further higher. So I think over there, and ICICI Pru is still dominated by autos as well to a certain extent. So that also growth tapers off. So I think HDFC Life for me is much better than any other life, at least life insurance side, which is there.
Okay, that's the view on the insurance companies. Pull up Cummins Industries, that's gone up in the last 5 to 10 minutes of trade. So bucking the trend in a weak market like today's, Cummins is up about over 2% in trade. Brijesh, what do you make of the move which has come in the last 5 to 10 minutes of trade? Would you trade this?
Sorry, Namita, I'm not able to hear which one you're talking about.
Cummins.
See, last half an hour we have seen buying coming in it, and right now at 762 or 763 the stock has been quoting. No doubt if someone wants to play, keep a strict stop loss of 748 and look for the pullback to the level of 777 or 780.
Okay, and the other one, which is up in a weak market like today's, is also Glenmark. The pharma pack, remember, has been weak for the longest time. Hemain, would you trade Glenmark at current levels?
I think so. I think it's been completely beaten out of shape. Sounds like a silly excuse, but I don't think there's much to lose. There is positive divergence, indicators giving crossover buys. So yeah, long story short, I would trade Glenmark long.
Okay, one can look to long. Glenmark is that. That's what Hemain is suggesting. Samir, before we thank you, one stock, looking at the market internals today, which is corrected, and you would recommend buying. I know we've taken views on HDFC, Bajaj Twins, but something out of that ambit?
As in, if you've not taken SGFC
Yes.
Limited, go for SGFC Limited. Close your eyes and go over there.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're sticking to quality.
Yep. Because see, it's not about quality. If in such a market, if you're able to still kind of garner around 1.5 lakh crore, and your cost is almost 100 bips up than Government of India, I think there's nothing better than right now for you other than anything else. So I think SGFC Limited is something which you can even top up if you had something old sitting in your portfolio, and you can buy here on further and kind of look for next 5 years to be a golden period for you.
Okay, Samir, actually I'll request you to stay on. Just want to complete that point since you wanted to speak about that. So just stay on, but we'll just wrap up the markets right now. 2.7% lower for the Nifty Bank. That's been the principal culprit today. And PSU banks have contributed meaningfully. I think the PSU bank index, if I'm not wrong, is down about 4 or 5, 5.4% or thereabouts. Nifty down about 2%, Sensex down about a couple of percentage points. Broader markets too would have corrected. Today nothing can be spared. So about 2.5% apiece for these as well. The market rate would be bad. No surprises thereof. Let's take a look at what's moved and what's not. I mean, yes, a few stocks may have gained, the likes of Yes Bank, etc., which is the top gainer. HCL Technologies and TCS marginally higher. But then look at the losers. The Bajaj Twins, 10% and 8% respectively. Sanjeev Bajaj admitting that there is some bit of slowdown that has been very dramatic in Q1 for Bajaj Finance, and as a result of that, that holding value in Bajaj Finance have also taken a bit of a knock. ONGC 5%, NTPC 5%, IOC. So PSUs and oil PSUs predominantly have also taken a hit. And then the auto pack. So there is Hero MotoCorp, there is Maruti Suzuki. Go down here, there is a bit of a Tata Motors, Eicher, and even Bajaj Auto, and all the two-wheelers have definitely corrected. So autos, PSU banks, some PSUs, actually almost everything has corrected in the session today. Easier for me to talk about 50 stocks. Navneet, a lot more difficult task, but what stood out?
Well, the list is long when it comes to losers, Neeraj, and they were selling across the board, be it large caps or the mid cap stocks today. Let me start off with few gainers which still stood out. BF Utilities was locked in upper circuit, bucking the trend in today's market when it was weak, 20% higher for the stock. DMart, remember this fell actually on Friday, but there was some bit of recovery which came in for Avenue Supermarts. The stocks closing around the day's high mark with gains of about 3.5%. From the pharma pack, you also had Glenmark, which witnessed some bit of buying interest in today's trade, so 1.5% higher for this one. And we've been talking about the life insurance companies. SBI, one of them, saw some bit of gains in today's session, though actually towards the end that also got sold into. So every rally in most of the stocks was getting sold into. To highlight the losers, Mindtree was the top F&O loser also for the day. The stock tumbled after the news of the old guard resigning, 13% lower for this stock. PNB was the other one after reporting fraud by Bharat Bhushan Steel and Power. That stock was down about 11%. Your PSU banks, Bank of India, Union Bank, all of them saw sharper cuts in today's trade. In fact, 10% lower coming in for Bank of India, and Union Bank saw a correction of about 8 to 9%. Ujjivan Financial in the second half of the session succumbed to selling pressure, 6.5% lower for this one. Your fertilizer companies, we've not spoken much about it, but there was zero-based farming which was announced in the budget. I don't know how much of that impacts these companies, because that does indicate buying of less fertilizer and chemical. Facts saw 8 to 9% correction in today's trade, and something like RCF2 saw a correction of about 6 to 7%. Jain Irrigation, by the way, was the other one which came under selling pressure. And lastly, you've also got Shriram Transport. This counter also saw selling pressure at levels. At every rise, actually, we're seeing some bit of selling pressure. So 4% finally towards the closing is where Shriram is seen.
Yeah, and you know, that's just the PSU Bank Index. We were still making that point. Just get the MRR function on the Bloomberg terminal for the PSU Bank Index today, 6% lower across the board corrections. And PNB, we can understand, of course, there's some fundamental news to it, but the rest too have fallen and fallen arguably on fairly high volumes, I might add. SBI is down about 4% in the session today, Navneet. So pretty steep fall for some of the PSU banks.
Yep, SBI, I remember one of our technical experts suggesting that it's coming out of 9-year consolidation. It was looking good technically, but I think after the recap news of 70,000 crore being spread over 2 years is something which has not been taken well by the market. Let's also take a look at the Nifty contributors, which were the stock which dragged the Nifty lower by almost 200 points in today's session. And that's the list for you. I think the selling, Neeraj, was across the board. HDFC Bank dragging it by 33 points. L&T, Bajaj Finance, ICICI Bank were the major contributors on the downside. Support coming in from a couple of your banking stocks, but no major support. TCS, HCL Technologies just contributing together 6 points.
Yeah, when was the last time you saw this name in this list with such a contribution?
That used to feature this side most of the times.
Always, yeah, it's just been that kind of a day for Bajaj Finance. The market breadth would be terrible, so no point looking at it. It has to be weak. No prices for guessing that. But the turnover is interesting. Let's see what the volumes have been in the session today. Well, F&O volumes higher for sure. You could argue that the cash market volumes are at par, but the F&O volumes high suggests that there should have been some significant options activity today.
That's right, Neeraj. It's above the average what we usually see of 6 to 7 lakh crore, and cash is little lower than what we saw in Friday's trade of about 33,000 crore.
Well, let's take in closing thoughts from our experts. Hemant, to you first. Now, you sounded that saying that it is a bit oversold. If it were to start off lower today, does it break some key levels, or you would believe that is a better opportunity than get into for a bounce?
I think, Neeraj, I think it would be a better opportunity, frankly speaking, because there was a gap. I think Brijesh mentioned that 11,590, 11,426 post-exit poll. Now that gap has been partially filled. 11,500, you have the maximum OI put. We've had the put call going below 1. Oversold 15 minutes, half an hour MACD buys on the Nifty, Bank Nifty. So if it opens lower, that much more better. I'm not saying that it's a very high conviction buy, but yes, it's definitely not a short over here. I'd still say if it opens lower, it's still a buy. High risk, but yeah, it's still a buy because the bounce is around the corner. Or maybe it could be a couple of hours here and there. But once again, it's a small trade, ideally to play for a bounce, and the bounce that culminates into a short at higher levels. Neeraj.
Okay. Brijesh, what about you? What would your view be if we start off slightly lower tomorrow as well?
See, if we start again, as I said, there's nothing promising looking on that chart. Most of the stocks are either weekly low, they have broken or monthly low, and like Bajaj Finserv or Bajaj Finance or SBI, last week they were been making a 52-week high now they have been corrected by 3% to 5% and above that, and the leaders are now giving a pain. So what I've been feeling, any right should be used for going short, and till Nifty has not been trading above 11,720 or 11,770 for short term to medium term has been concerned. The pain would be there. Right should be used for going short. As I have said, Nifty is heading. It looked like Nifty would be going and filling that gap, as I have mentioned earlier. Also, it was been created in the May 19th, and so 11,400 to 11,450 is a level for Nifty. If we talk about Bank Nifty, till Bank Nifty not been trading above 30,950, there would be a pain, and chances are that any rise should be used for going short. 20,600 to 20,800, 29,600 to 29,800 is the level where the support would be coming up. So both the indices are looking which can be as a trader, one can go for a short size in it.
Okay. Hemant, Brijesh, thanks so much, gentlemen, for joining in today and giving us that perspective. Slightly short of time, but Samir, the point that you were making about the additional supply coming in and why you don't think it's a big deal.
So I think, see what happened when it was announced that minimum shareholding should be 25. Everyone panicked that time also. If you see in the charts, I'll show you in the charts as well. And over there, everyone starts calculating, okay, this company will have this much of liquidity coming. And everyone guesses that it has to come tomorrow. That's where the prices react first, and then where the logic comes in. But even if I see that it has to be done in the next 18 months, what's bad in it? See, a company who's already in MSCI India or MSCI Emerging will get a higher weightage. You'll get more flows in that company. It'll be much more into the public hands rather than the promoter who's trying to do something or the other today and find out a way to get out of the company. And I see this as more of a kind of an initial stage talk. It's not something which is fruitified, being notified, and then it's executing. But yeah, and meanwhile, if I get the stocks which I want cheaper, then why not?
You know, last time when this happened, just want to say, in 2013, SEBI did give 3 years, and I think that rule is still being followed today. A company gets listed, a promoter entity gets 3 years to dilute it to 75%.
And certain companies, if you see, people don't even know what kind of shareholding already exists.
Yes.
And they're trying to exit just in the panic. So I think it's better to take a look, take a breather. I think it gives a better opportunity to buy rather than just sell those stocks. That's where I
That's
come
what you
in.
saw in Avenue Supermarts today.
Yeah, maybe that's some kind of a reaction, but I don't buy it.
Okay, Samir, thanks so much for joining in today, and appreciate your time. And viewers, thanks so much. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Countdown. But on a bad day for the markets, we wrap it up. From Navneet and myself and the team that put this show together, thanks so much for watching. The Market Wrap comes up next. Stay tuned.